How can this simple act feel like the most dangerous thing I could never think of? More a reflex than intention, at once consuming myself and gifting my wealth to the world. Let me sit with it. Give it some more time. I'll learn the hand I must play for this to become what it wants to. I will not refuse, but allow the muse to guide me. From the waking of the dawn to the vast dark of still, I will mark this lonely page. Allow its fresh wound to find me and make me.
The work makes itself, that's the first thing. Every decision you make, the painting then wants to be the painting that it wants to be. The marks flow in the way that the paint wants to flow, so that you sort of have to go with it a little bit.
Fatto a mano is the Italian word for made by hand. I wanted to be a bike shop that actually could fix things, could repair, being able to make a frame, make it by hand, braze and weld, fabricate. All these things is what used to happen in bike shops.
What excites me is the unknown of a work and how it's going to evolve to the end process.
It is just a playground for creative ideas. Imaginative approaches to new technologies is kind of what new technologies need.
It's all about starting at that artist level, making sure that everything that we do is completely about what the artist wants to get out of their live show.
Even when you think things are static, they're not. When you sit in a landscape and you think about it and you observe it and you make drawings of it, you notice the tiniest little changes.
I only stopped being in my bedroom when we finally got to the point where I got given this really cool opportunity by people at Brand X to get my own retail space at a very low price. And then all of a sudden I went from my bedroom straight into like a retail shop. And that gave me like a good 4 years to work out what actually was going to work.
That's what I do with my photographs and my paintings. I'm getting signifiers from potentially contradictory things and then mashing them together and remixing them. And in that remix, hopefully people can discover their own narrative.
The show that we're developing, in this writer's room is a period comedy. As long as it is unique, has an authentic voice in terms of its storytelling, it's kind of fun.
Music production's like that. You'll jump in and write a song with someone, and then someone will say, here's a song I wrote, can you record and produce it?
And I'll make you walk this tightrope with each breath.
It's also their story, and we're going to frame it in a way that paints a unique picture for them.
Cool.
As a dancer today, you need to be able to do the classics, perfectly, but you also need to be able to do exactly what's asked and have some input into choreography. There's lots of room for creativity, and that's becoming more and more evident in the works that are being produced.
Walking is part of my process as well and part of my practice. So I walk through to Centennial Park, around Centennial Park and through all the back streets all the way back. I realised that creating work was a way of processing my own mental health and anxiety. That's what my practice is about, is giving myself the permission and the safe space to tell my own story.
Art isn't meditative for me at all. Art is a frenzy of kind of fury often. It In a way, the art is the language. It's not a meditation. It's actually it's an action. It's an energy.
Technically, I approach all of the paintings like you would paint flowers. You know, it's tonal, it's colour, it's matching, it's moving away when you can. And if I've captured someone's soul, you know, like in some sort of Horcrux way, that's not my doing, really.
If I'm building wheels, generally I'll listen to reggae or classical music or something sort of out of tempo. Whereas I really need to smash out work, I'll be playing dance music or grunge or, you know, like a little bit of punk or whatever.
If you hold on to being too precious about your work, you're not growing and you're not expanding and playing, really. That's what my artwork seems to be about.
Working in 360, we then started playing with not just 360 but 3D, which was both virtual reality and augmented reality. It takes it off the screen and into a theatricalised three-dimensional space.
The specific emotions that this person's feeling are really important to how that story makes sense. And so exploring that as best as possible is what is art.
Because I found if I've sat in the landscape, thought about it, and made some marks in the landscape, they all connect me back to that place, and I use that to push the painting further on.
So the way we've got things set up, it means I can come up with an idea, post it on socials, get some buzz, then create the design, then release it all in one day, and then that afternoon we can then be shipping it out already.
Because it is like taking my brain for a walk through a series of obstacles and hurdles, and then presenting an outcome, understanding that my audience hasn't been on that walk with me.
We have made a lot of horror, sci-fi, thriller films so far. They've worked really well for us commercially, and it's one of the reasons that we've stuck with it. And then, of course, when you have success in that field, then people just want more.
We are used to, in a creative process, to always be challenged and to open ourselves up to the uncertainty of the creative act.
The part of the process, for me, more important than actually taking the image, is, I suppose, the word collaboration of the people that I work with.
You know, so like on one level I know what I'm doing, but on the other level you never know.
It's one part of a conversation. It's my contribution to an ongoing conversation, and that conversation continues.
And I think making for me is really important, that sort of production. You know, I have these very tight ideas of what I think I might be doing, and then I have to put them aside and actually just operate through form.
I don't know, I think I'm merely the artisan, really, and I let other people sort of finish it off.
I wonder if I were to whisper this thought, would you catch my drift? If I were to pause, would you recognize your cue? If I were to lift my clouded veil, would you see me, my dear friend? You see, no matter how hard I pretend, I cannot deny I covet your thoughts. Like freshly baked bread, they sustain me. They strengthen my spine when I'm slumped. But one word from you, the slightest sound, and I am restored. A glint from your smile has caught a flame. Look, see, I write you this vine. I offer you a cup. Would you care to hold it a while?
I deal with people and their bikes that they're really passionate about, and some of them are 2 or 3 years in gestation, from being built to sourcing really rare or unusual parts. I vicariously lived through them, seeing their dream come to fruition.
There's an artist from across the road that sometimes visits me at like 12:30, or even 1 a.m. or that we're working late. Ben, for example, who's got the bike shop, he's a great reader of paintings. It does mean something to me if my friends like my work, because you have to sort of trust that community quite strongly, I think.
I went through many years in my career trying to please other people, and it's not until you mature and you think, hang on a minute, I'm going to do this for me. Feeling like you've done your best for that performance or for that day in class, and then you get up the next day and try even harder. It's not just physically being fit, it's how you mentally prepare and give yourself the strength and the positivity when sometimes you don't feel you have it.
The foundation for my work is the conversation. I am an artist, and I simply tell my story through my own lived experience. And what I can show you is my process on how I do that, and this may help you.
The human life we need to preserve, but also the animal life as well. It's all part of the ecosystem. I feel like I need to be a voice for them. I do know them quite intimately. I think my husband gets a bit jealous sometimes. I spend a lot of time with these animals.
We do a lot of very vulnerable posts about our own mental health stuff, and we also do a lot of designs that are sort of breaking those taboos. Wearing t-shirts saying, leave me alone, I don't want to talk to you, things like that, respect my space. When I got my very first order, I drew a drawing for that person, because I'm like, oh, you actually bought a piece of clothing from me, thank you. And we're still doing drawings for every order. We've grown a lot bigger since, and everyone gets a drawing.
The key to successful producing is just to have a bucket full of optimism. Do you know what I mean? We're beyond optimistic. Once you've built a track record where you've made commercially or critically successful films, then it does become easier and easier. So Sissy is the project that we produced in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, which is a big challenge for the screen industry because it was about bringing a lot of people together to actually make a film.
Safe space. And we never, ever have to leave it.
It's a time when, as creatives, I guess, the directors, the cast, even the producers get to really enjoy people who love cinema.
The success is having a final piece of art that you've put your passion and emotion and soul into. Did this tell a story you want to tell? The rest is kind of out of your hands. You can't really control, to some extent, how many people listen to it or, how many people connect with it.
Cause you can take it anymore, and I'm still having you wrapped around her.
I think sculpture, is actually about environment, it's about space, it's about a human body relationship to an object, it's about scale.
More recently, what we've done is we've started capturing people with LiDAR cameras, with 3D cameras, and beaming them into a space, both in a virtual space or a screen space, but also into the space of live performance. 40 years of physical practice in my body, how do I integrate that into the digital world and actually not make it superficial, but make it kind of heartfelt and human and visceral? Don't lose the human amidst the pixel.
It's quite a lonely life being an artist. You're there with your work. At the end of the day, you've made something that wasn't there earlier in the day. And that could have been a complete mess, or it could be really good. And so when you're having the bad days, it's really amazing to have other people here to go, come on, you had a good day yesterday, or it'll be a better day tomorrow.
Seeing the work in conjunction with my brother's sculpture of the horse and Tracy Moffat's work, they bounce off each other and speak to each other, and they're greater than the sum of their parts.
Artist talks for us have been excellent in communicating artist messages.
Every time we have a public showing, it's a bit of a stress test for the work, and some things succeed and some things fail.
There's not many opportunities for artists to be commissioned and supported to make a work that is daring, that is taking risks, that is challenging and potentially going to be confronting for some people. And I think those opportunities are incredibly important.
I think that our jobs as creatives is to deliver an experience for people, either fun, rocking out with each other on stage, being completely into it, or letting that like sadness and emotion come through when you're playing this song that just like means the world to you.
I have come into this place where my inner child can face my old soul, where work is hard but never a chore. On the floor are shards of chaos and tassels of joy. I scoop them all into a pillar of play. Here I have found the freedom to reach up, to swing out, to lean and stretch. And even though the fear of the fall seems to stymie my grip, I know that I have a strong belayer who watches my every step. The trail to here was tough, no doubt, no stone unturned, no seal unbound. I am found in this palette of hue. With my heart in my hands, I feel the pulse on the land of my labour. I search for gold in the grains, I hold to the flickering light. Though at times I feel so small, my shadow casts for miles. Like my dreams who script their own recourse, I try to keep up, hanging only to their hem in wonder.
And having the security of a space like this where I'm not worried about being kicked out at any time, that helps me really focus on doing these large projects.
Being part of a precinct, you know, the friendships are invaluable, and seeing where their journey is going and, you know, being a part of that as well. So what a beautiful twist of fate that landed me here.
It has been so essential to my personal growth and to the growth of all the amazing artists that we get to work with. It's a real way of supporting the arts across the board.
The studio for me is the lab. It's where all the kind of experimentation, all the making, all the action, all the thinking, it all happens here. I think studios are the biggest gifts for an artist.
Without the studio work and practice, there is no confidence, there's no muscle memory, and therefore there's nothing that you can really show towards the end if you haven't put the work in. That's where I found a lot of my satisfaction actually, was feeling the improvements, feeling the developments, bouncing off characters or other dancers with their technique as well, and feeling like that was the work and enjoying that work.
Every day that I wake up and I can come to my studio, I'm always like, I'm so fortunate to do this. Like, it makes me work harder.
Being a part of a community is really rewarding, and I think it can help sort of keep people down like a really positive path. I think that's what drives us more than anything else, of sort of kind of creating real life connections with people and doing something impactful and meaningful to people. But you can do it in a very playful way.
Play is the greatest freedom. That's where human expression comes from, is from play. A play space is a safe space. It's also a compassionate space. It can be a challenging space. That is the gift of exchange between other people, is you show them how you play, and then they come up and they show you how they play. And so you have this exchange of actually what it is to be human, which is to dance and to sing and to share culture. It's actually how humans communicate at our best.
What a stunning celebration of the creativity and energy from so many of the artists in this precinct. And what a vision from TWT to provide these spaces to artists whose work impacts audience both near and far. Providing studio space like this for artists will transform and connect communities.
Make me feel good.